Hi, so we are continuing on the Brahma Viharas, which is the second aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path. So I was contemplating whether to share this slide because it might be a bit difficult to understand, but I think I'll share it anyway because this is related to my experience of the practice. So this is quite a personal explanation from me, my own experience practicing the cultivating my heart in the Brahma Viharas, which to me, after some time, I realized is actually unconditional love. Right? So in the past, when I started practicing, I was doing the left, conditioned states of love practice. So this is from a commentary, I think Visuddhimagga, or I'm not sure, it could be Visuddhimagga, right? So where we're taught to learn to sit, right? And to wish ourselves well, to wish those we love well, to wish those we feel neutral about well, and then to wish those we dislike well, right? Happiness. And then to all beings, yeah. So this kind of meditation would be conditioned because we're asked to visualize someone. We're asked to visualize ourselves, our suffering, giving compassion, softness to ourselves, and then to those whom we love, right? So we have to visualize them. And sometimes the practice guides the meditator to sit and just visualize on something which, like a person, a spiritual friend whom they love and respect. So spiritual friend is not like a husband or wife where you may tend to have disagreement, or a boyfriend girlfriend whom you have a lot of lust for, and then you think of them, then you cannot meditate already, right? So usually there is a kind of meditation where you're being asked to think of a good spiritual friend, where you feel a lot of respect and therefore love for, and then when you feel that feeling for that spiritual friend, then you're not so focused on the spiritual friend anymore, then you stay on that feeling, and with that feeling of that love and respect and kindness, right, that has arisen from you thinking of that spiritual friend, then you spread that love to all directions, to the front, to the back, to the top, to the bottom, to the left, to the right, okay, to all directions, all around you, the space around you, from your house to the neighborhood, to the country, to the universe, right, to the Mother Earth, to the universe. So that's how it goes. So that's another way to meditate. And so I've done that. Then of course, by doing this, and then you get out of your sitting, you may feel good for a while, but then after that, right, old habits may probably creep back, because this is a conditioned way of practice. Because what is conditioned? As long as you're asked to think about something, right? Think about a flower, then you believe the flower. Then you think of a person, you believe there's a person. Then that feeling arises, you see. So it's conditioned practice. So this sort of practice is not say that it's no good, but you have to do it a lot and make it a habit. So there was once I attended an online retreat that was really about practicing meditation through love lah. So this Bante is he I agree with him. Actually, he said that practicing meditation through love is much easier than the breath. I really agree with him. And then I got into a state of a condition attached kind of meditation, though even though I did it at home during COVID, it was online. I was so immersed with this feeling of love that I didn't want to go out. I felt just very good just being at home. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to meet anyone. I was just, so there was a clinging quality, right, to this, which is not correct lah. Because when you meditate, you're advised to give up every state, no matter how pleasant it is, right? Why? Because if you don't give up pleasant states in your meditation, it's going to be like real life. You cannot give up your comfortable bed, right? Then somebody asks you to sleep on the straw mat on the floor, then you get very angry, where's my comfortable bed? So the same thing can happen in meditation, right? Okay, so that's the left side, okay, of the practice, conditioned practice. Then the right side will be the unconditioned practice. So how does the right side work? So for me, this worked a lot better because I started meditating by giving up, by letting go, by surrendering my five aggregate six sense base. So basically what I did was death meditation, but this is not suitable for everyone because not everyone, is ready to face their own death by visualizing how the body dies. And some people may mistake it as, since death is so good, why don't I go kill myself now, right? So this is not like that. Unfortunately, many people on earth are still quite immature and they can't really contemplate all these things, so it's not safe to just share death meditation to anyone, but I'm just sharing here that I did it, right? So the Buddha said, a monk who understands that covetousness, meaning one thing, right, greed, ill will are unnatural states of mind due to wrong perception. Yeah, they're unnatural because it distorts the mind lah. So he gives them up, develops confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So I have really summarized this thing, this sutta. This sutta is much longer. If you want to read, you can go and read it. So basically, somebody who give up the three unwholesome states of mind are greed, aversion, and delusion. Delusion means, so for me, this is a very personal experience. I'm just sharing. For me, the delusion is fearing death, thinking death is the end. So actually, even though I practice Buddhism, I had a deep belief in annihilism. I still thought that it will be an end, even though I believe in that consciousness doesn't die, it goes on, it changes, but in my heart it's not fully changed. So my heart still have the idea that once I die is nothing. So therefore that fear, you see. So how did I give up that delusion? I give up that delusion by facing my fears. I refuse to run away from it anymore. The fear of death. Yeah. So I sat in my meditation. I told myself, I'm going to visualize myself dying. And then when that visualization comes, rationally I ask myself, what is the first thing to go? The body. I'm going to lose heat. I'm going to lose breath. I'm going to lose bodily sensation, right? So first body sensation, water, air, and then consciousness. And when I lose bodily consciousness, what goes? Feeling goes, perception goes, thoughts goes. They leave. They go back into space. Yeah, so that delusion I faced was, come on man, let me see the fear, right? So that was what I did. Yeah. And then what arose after that was actually joy, delight springs up, and the body becomes tranquil and content. It was so unexpected, because who would have thought that death meditation can be so pleasant? Yeah. Again, I just want to put a word of caution. It's not for everyone. It's not for people who are suicidal, because this is really not the practice about how death is better than life. It's not so, okay? It's a spiritual path. It's a spiritual practice to find out what we are. Okay, it's not whether life is better than death or death is better than life, because life and death are relative truth. Yeah. So, okay, so I was very surprised that then the next sentence, right? So in the sutta, after joy, delight springs up, body becomes tranquil and content, and is immersed in samadhi. So samadhi is the word that the Buddha came up with, which I won't explain here. I'll explain much later in the meditation section later on. So they meditate, spreading love, compassion, joy, equanimity everywhere, all around. So this was my confusion before I started meditating deeply and facing my delusion, before I faced that delusion in me. So obviously when I face the fear in me, I will have to let go of greed and aversion, right? Because fear itself is a delusion and an aversion. The aversion that springs up from the thought that in my heart, the belief in my heart that, after I die, there'll be nothing. Therefore, that fear, correct? So that fear is supported by that delusion, which is that belief. Even though consciously I know that we don't die, right? But the heart, so this is really transformation of the heart. Yeah, so of course then you got to force out to give up greed for the five aggregates, isn't it? So when before I did this meditation and I don't understand this sutta, I was thinking, okay, so after I give up greed, hatred, and delusion, joy, delight springs up, body becomes tranquil and content. So then why do I go out and meditate, spreading love, compassion, the Brahma Viharas, unconditional love everywhere around? It's very strange to me, right? Why do I do that? Because that time I had an understanding from various teachers that says that meditating on the Brahma Viharas will not release you because it'll just bring you to the highest Brahma realm. So I was like, yeah, then why would I spread like that time I didn't understand this as unconditional love. I was thinking, yeah, so meditation is one thing that releases my heart into nirvana, then why do I go out into the world and spread unconditional love, which doesn't bring me to nirvana, just the highest Brahma stage, right? So I was very confused at this point. Okay, before I decided to face my biggest fear, the fear of death, annihilation in a Thai monastery, where I was left alone. I was there meditating for 1.5 months or 2 months by myself. A lot of time by myself. And before I faced that, I was very confused. So after I did that meditation, I finally understood what this sutta meant. Because the joy that springs up in your heart is part of the joy in the Brahma Vihara. You see, love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Yeah, so it's delightful. Unconditional love is delightful. So I finally understood this sutta. Okay, so that joy that springs up in your heart is actually is part of this unconditional love. And then you feel so much joy and delight. Oh yeah, actually nothing ends, it's love. Yeah, there is love all around. It is only love. In death we all return to love. That was my insight then. Yeah, so therefore it's natural that once the heart chakra opens up, the chest area, with that joy and delight from letting go of wrong views, the 3 unwholesome roots, so then you have the Brahma Vihara. So then also this, as the practitioner continue to meditate, will realize there is this, there is what is worse than this, there is what is better than this, and there is an escape beyond the scope of perception. So this sounds very deep, right? So I explain this. There is this, meaning there is this joy and delight, that view. Oh, everything dissolves into love. It's wonderful. Okay, and all this came from the fact that I was courageous enough to look at my deepest fear. Okay, so courage and faith is needed in this practice. Yeah. So there's this. There's love, and the wisdom was me bringing up courage to face my fears. Yeah, but of course you should not force yourself to face your fear, because you could spiral down into anxiety. So please, again, I caution, this is not for everyone. You must have some readiness. So there is what is worse than this. What is worse than this? What is worse than this was my fear. The egoistic fear that I'm going to be annihilated. So it's the ego that is worse than this love, this realization of everything is unconditional love. Okay, when this love sprung out in my body, I realized there's just love in the body, right? It was misunderstanding that kept me from it. Yeah, so there's what is worse than this was that misunderstanding, delusion. I didn't know. I thought that I am a Macy, I'm real. Macy has fear. So after this letting go of 3 unwholesome roots, there's no more Macy, there's just love all around, everywhere. Okay, so then there is what is better than this. So what is better than this? Realization of unconditional love. There is something better than this, because there are finer states of perception than this very joyful delight lah. So this joyful delight and love, right, means that there's this strong vibration in your body. So it's a bit coarse, it's a bit gross. Yeah, it's not very subtle. Then after a while, of course, this feeling will go away, ma. It's not permanent, right? Then are you gonna hang on to it? No, you gotta let it go. Okay, then you let it go, you will go into a final state of to become equanimity, where there is still a sense of self, but it's a very balanced self. Okay, so equanimity is there's still this slight sense of self, but a little bit more open, less heavy, yeah, than before. Okay, so there is an escape. And there is an escape beyond the scope of perception. Then from equanimity, right, there's still this a bit of that weight, bit. Even though that sense of self is starting to open up, there's less sense of attachment and clinging on, so that sense of self is beginning to blur a bit, yeah? Because you're at this point you're equanimous between about the 8 worldly winds, okay, about the opposites, the duality of things. And then you can go into a deeper level, which is the higher perception, higher dimensional perception, which again I'll talk about it in meditation. So a lot of meditation teachers say it's not necessary to go beyond the 4th jhana, because 4th jhana is equanimity. But in my own experience, in my very own experience, I think it's very useful to go into the higher jhanas, okay, the higher perception, dimension of perception, because that is real opening. Okay, so knowing and seeing this, their mind is freed from fetters of sensuality, desire to be reborn, and ignorance. Okay, so there's an escape beyond the scope of perception would be when the mind lets go even further, even lets go of that equanimity, it goes into more open states, into the other dimensions, the higher jhanas. I'll explain again later. And knowing and seeing this, because that perception become more and more subtle, that sense of self become more and more lesser. And because it feels much lesser, your body feels lighter and it feels brighter. I don't know how to explain what is feeling brighter, but when you get there, you know what I mean, right? In the Tibetan Buddhist, they use the word luminosity, but it's also in the Pali canon. Yeah. Then their mind is freed from fetters of sensuality. Why so? Because this is far more relaxing than depending on material things for your happiness. When you depend on material things for your happiness, there is always that sense that it's not secure because I'm going to lose it, because material things going to decay, is impermanent. Understand? But in that open state, you're not hanging on to anything for that calm, for that ease in your heart, for that relaxation in your heart. Then you realize, actually, I don't really need anything to be happy. Okay, that's when you realize that. Then because you don't really need anything to be happy, there's not much clinging. So there's lesser and lesser desire to be reborn, no? Because rebirth comes from clinging, ma. Okay? And then your ignorance that happiness needs clinging, attachment, and becoming drops away slowly as you practice. Okay? Alright, so I'll end with this slide because it's near 20 minutes. And so sorry for my long explanation over one slide. If you're interested, you can play back and listen again. So this is purely from my own experience of the practice. My truth is not the absolute truth. Why? The Buddha ever shared this simile. He said, imagine a huge elephant and you let different blind men touch different parts of the elephant, and they'll give you different answers. Because different blind men will have different experience of the truth that is unique to them. Okay? So of course, everyone who's on the right path to liberation of the mind will experience joy, delight, tranquility, and contentment. and equanimity. Contentment is equanimity. Everyone will experience all of this, but how you get to there, okay, is really letting go. Okay, so these are uniform experience lah, which tells you that you're on the right path. This is the correct path. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, because in the Visuddhimagga there is this conditioned path where you purposely, intentionally practice, do all of this, and then you purposely, intentionally let go, which is one valid way of opening up your mind. Yeah, so what I'm saying here is, I didn't do that because that didn't work for me. I went straight to just being very frustrated. I decided to do death and just let go, okay, and just give it up despite my fear. Okay, so that's what I mean by that difference. Okay, so that's why different teachers may tell you different thing, and you think that, oh, that teacher must be right, the other one must be wrong. So it's not truly so. It's not truly that way. Okay, so that's all I want to share. Thank you very much.